Did you know that by being tough and self-reliant as a criminal defense lawyer, you're actually hurting your practice? If you don't understand this, then tune in and find out what I'm talking about.
You are listening to the Prosper Law Podcast. Learn how to reduce stress, have more time, and make more money. Come on in.
I'm Greg McCollum, and I built a 7-figure criminal defense law firm. I formed Prosper Law to show criminal defense law firm owners who are desperate for success how to grow from under $200,000 to $1 million and beyond. Most criminal defense law firm owners who are, solo practitioners, or say they own a small law firm, they're really pretty isolated. That was one of the things that I noticed when I left the DA's office. Prior to that, when I first started practicing, my first job, I was a judicial clerk for a judge, which meant that I went to court with him. And in South Carolina, we have a circuit court system where judges travel to different jurisdictions over the course of a 6-month schedule. And so we go into different places. I'm spending all my time with him. I'm in court. I mean, if I'm working, I'm in court. If we weren't in court, I really didn't have to go to work. But we were always in court somewhere. And so I'm in the courthouse. I'm spending time with the judge. I'm back in the chambers with the judge. So the lawyers are coming back, having conferences and stuff. So it was very exciting, and it was very interesting. And it's sitting in court because we'd sit next to the judge up there and listening, and the judge would be talking under his breath and explaining things to me in real time as it was going on. And then obviously the big benefit for that is you're associated with a judge, and you're kind of the gateway to the judge. So everybody gets to know you because, they want to get a message to the judge, or they whatever it is, they want scheduling things. So you're really front and center. And so you get all this feedback, and it's really a great learning experience. And if anybody's had the opportunity to do that, they know what I'm talking about. And any young person out there who had an opportunity to go clerk for a judge, I would highly recommend it. Now, the other thing is, after that, then I got a job in the public defender's office. And so the public defender's office at the time, it wasn't that huge. Maybe we had like 6 or 7 of us, something like that. But we all worked together. We were busy. We had all these cases. We had people to visit in the jail. We were preparing for trial sometimes, and we were always doing pleas and negotiating things. And so literally I worked in the courthouse every day. Every day I was in the courthouse. Almost all the time I was in court. If I wasn't in court, I was at the jail, or I was doing something, prepping a file. And so I get all this feedback, and I learn so much, and I meet people, and I'm interacting with people. And then when I left the public defender's office, because they offered me a job in the district attorney's office. And so then I went to the DA's office. There again, our office is in the courthouse, and we're in court all the time. And then I got to I kind of rose up through the ranks where I was running court, and I had a team of lawyers, that worked under my supervision, and we were responsible for court, which meant we were responsible mostly for doing, guilty pleas all day, and or having the trial schedule set. And I was responsible for the trials, and I was responsible to make sure that my team members had trials ready, which that's a whole different conversation. But I was surrounded by people, and I was you're constantly getting feedback on what you're thinking. You're constantly getting feedback in that setting. I was constantly getting feedback from other lawyers. When I wasn't doing a case, I was usually in there, so I'm hearing other lawyers present their cases to the judge. I'm hearing other people present the mitigation and guilty pleas. I'm hearing lawyers, try cases. Even maybe I didn't hear the whole case, but I'm in and out of the courtroom for different things, so I'm hearing different aspects of the trial. As part of my job, I'm constantly interacting, with the judge and the other lawyers and the courtroom staff. So I'm getting all this feedback. And also, just the general just interesting life or the excitement, of what's going on. Because if there was something in the news or there was something that was happening, there was some big case or some big political thing going on, I always knew about it. We always knew about it. We got that information, and a lot of times on cases that were going on that the public would have been interested in, we had because of our jobs, we had the inside track on that. We had the inside information. So we just knew what was going on. And some of that, I really enjoyed it. And I liked the feedback, and I liked being around people, and I liked being around all the different lawyers and all of that. So then when I go into private practice, so this is, I'm between the judge internship or the judicial law clerk job and then the, public defender, and then being an assistant prosecutor. It's about 5 or 6 years of that. And then I go into private practice, and what do I have? I got a room in an office building with, my receptionist out there. I was in a professional office space to begin with, so it was just I had a room, and then there was a lobby waiting area, and somebody out there that answered the phone and transferred phone calls into me. And also if somebody came in to meet with me, would buzz me and let me know the person was there, and I'd go get them and go meet with them either in my office or in the conference room. And that was it. So what I do all day. So I'm sitting in my office, either waiting for the phone to ring so I can get a client, or I'm looking at a file thinking, what am I going to do with this? And then trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I get to court. So all of a sudden now I'm just isolated. I'm cut off. I don't get any feedback on anything. And sure, I could call lawyers and people that I know, but maybe they're busy. Maybe you can't just call somebody and they're just waiting for you to call. So those kind of things usually have to be scheduled. So now I'm isolated, and I was isolated for a long time. And that was one of the things I missed about working at the courthouse. It was the feedback. Now, if you're isolated and you're also kind of in this work whirlwind where you're trying to keep up, how are you really going to grow? What ideas are you going to have for growth? What are you being exposed to? Now, because you need feedback, and Jordan Peterson, if you know who he is, he talks about how talking to other people, and he's talking about this mostly as you're developing as a child, that if you take somebody or take a child and isolate that child, and they say they never go around other people. In other words, they never go to kindergarten, they never go to a school setting, they're never socialized by going to, say, parties with other kids, then they don't develop. They don't develop certain skills because your peer group, and this can be positive and negative, but in general, and as we develop as humans, our group kind of guides us. If you say something stupid, or you do something stupid, or you wear something stupid, or something out of the ordinary, this group of people, that's what civilization is, they rein you back in. Your buddy, your friend, or whatever goes, yeah, you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that, or you're acting like a fool, Greg. You're being so stupid. Okay, so there's this socialization. So what I'm talking about here is that in the context of trying to grow your law firm into something big and magnificent, you're isolated. So where do your ideas come from, and who are you talking to about those? Because you can have an idea, or you could be listening to something, you could be reading a book or something like that, and think, okay, this seems like a brilliant idea. I want to try that. Well, you kind of need a sounding board for that. You need to have an idea to get some clarity. A good friend of mine, her name is Branna, and she's a family court lawyer. And originally she was going to do this prosperate law with me, but some things happened in her life And so we had a friendly split, and she's in a different direction. But we talk a lot. Maybe sometimes we talk every day. And she's talking about some things that are going on in her life and some things she's trying to do as you get clarity. And she made the comment that, Greg, when I talk to you, things get clearer, and it helps me so much. And I referenced the Jordan Peterson. I said, well, this is what socializes us. This is when we say an idea out loud to somebody else, it's helpful. It does a couple of things. One is that it gives us clarity because we hear what it sounds like, and then we get the reaction from the other person, where the other person says, okay, yes, and this, and that. Then you start going down this path of kind of learning or exploration, which doesn't really happen necessarily if you go for a walk and talk to yourself, because you don't get the feedback. And you see this with people, and I've seen it with people that I know, friends of mine, people I'm related to, who have lived in isolation, and how they kind of go into an odd direction and start having different thoughts and things like that. So in terms of building your law firm, when I was isolated, of course, I wanted to have more clients. I wanted to charge bigger fees. I wanted to make more money. I wanted to have more success. But where was that going to come from? Because I'm by myself. I don't have any mentors. I don't have people that I can talk to. There were people that were successful in my, geographic market. There were lawyers that I knew and admired. But the reality of it is that because they were competitors, they really weren't going to help me. I mean, they would act nice enough, and to this day, they still, mostly act pretty nice, but they're guarded. They're not going to help me. And in a lot of situations, people that I thought had answers, they really didn't. They did a lot of posturing and posing, and it looked like they were more successful than they really are. So if you think about this in terms of growing your law firm, who can you talk to? And I would say just take a minute and say, write it down. Who can you talk to? And then, is there anybody you can talk to? Because that's one of the purposes, of what we do here. Now, if you listen to this podcast and you get value from it, and I hope you do, then that's good. You're getting feedback from me. But it's different than getting in a room with other people who are like me and like you, who have the similar goals in mind, and we can then share our personal and professional experiences. And that's the mastermind effect, which is the best by far. One of my mentors and people that I greatly admire, Ken Hardison, who is the owner and leader of PILMMA, which is a personal injury lawyers event. They have the Super Summit every year, and it's terrific. But he also has the masterminds. And in his situation, he taught me, and I was in his masterminds, that basically the mastermind effect was the highest effect. Because while going to seminars is helpful and going and drinking from the fire hose is helpful, there's nothing like the mastermind effect. And it's interesting because like one of his lawyers who gives a testimonial, one of his members, said that when he was going to the PILMMA events, he didn't join a mastermind because he felt like he hadn't gotten to a high enough level to actually join the mastermind group. He felt like he needed to get more successful, maybe get to say like $1 million or certainly over 800,000 or 900,000 and have a bigger staff before the mastermind would help him. Ken had told him, he said, look, you should just join now. And the guy's revenues were at $200,000 or $300,000 at that time. Now he's done this for years, but now he goes and he's, will talk at PILMMA events and talk about how from doing the mastermind, he went from I think it was $200,000. It might have been $300,000. Now he's at 10 million. And that was the effect. Because what happens now is he's no longer isolated. It's one of the reasons that I, built the criminal defense lawyer mastermind, is because we're isolated. And because I was looking for a criminal defense lawyer mastermind group, a live in-person group, and I couldn't find one. Now, there may be one out there other than mine, but I don't know about it. So I was looking to get out of that isolation because I had been in that isolation, and I discovered that I could get out of it. But I was in basically the coaching programs I was in. Some were general, which were good. They helped me tremendously. It changed my life. I'm not knocking them. And then the other ones, the true masterminds I was in, it was all personal injury lawyers. And look, they're great lawyers. I like them. They're friends of mine, and they do terrific work. And I learned a lot from them. But there are certain things that I just couldn't, discuss with them in terms of them giving me feedback. When I go to my own masterminds now, and then I can share what I'm doing that's working. Other people can share what they're doing, which is working. And then we also have this kind of camaraderie because we're all doing the same things and we're all isolated. And so when we come together and we're able to share things and we become friends, ultimately in these groups, you really become friends with people, and you get to be around people who then they really want you to succeed. And there's really nothing like it. And then the so-called mastermind effect from the Napoleon Hill idea of a mastermind in the book Think and Grow Rich, he talks about how you just have this mastermind effect of all these minds working together. And so it's greater than the sum of its parts. And you can have some incredible breakthroughs, but you can also just have some normal progress where you look at something differently. And when you sit there and you're on your so-called hot seat and you talk about, okay, this is my issue and this is what I'm trying to resolve, and you lay it out there, a couple of things are happening. One is that you've traveled somewhere else to be in a space to not be interrupted in order to focus on that area of growth. And that's powerful in and of itself. In some ways, if you just went by yourself and had the ability to stay on an agenda and focus on something by yourself, that kind of retreat and things that people do, spiritual retreats and things like that, are helpful. Now, you do need a facilitator. You do need some guidance. And so just the fact that you're going to a place where the idea is that you're going to focus on what it is that you're trying to grow, something that you're trying to do, and then you've got a facilitator, and then you've got other people adding to it. You're spending time on something that's important. Now, a friend of mine who works with me, he would go to these masterminds, and his wife would say, no, where are you going? Why are you going to Cleveland? And he would say, well, I'm going to this mastermind group. And she would say, what's a mastermind group? And he told her this for years. And she was like, and what do you do at a mastermind group? And he said he finally just told her, look, it's therapy for business owners and entrepreneurs. And so once he said it was therapy for business owners and entrepreneurs, then she got it, okay? But what it really is, there is a therapeutic aspect to it, but what it really is escaping the isolation. Because if you want to talk to me about marketing, if you want to talk to me about hiring A players, and you want to sit down and you tell me, like, I've got this employee, this is a lawyer that works for me, or this is a paralegal, or this is my office manager, or this is my chief operating officer, and I'm having a problem and I don't know the answer. Do you want to figure that out by yourself, or do you want to figure it out with people who come from a same position but also they're the same position you're in. You're the law firm owner, the criminal defense law firm owner, but they've also dealt with it, and they can give you a concrete example of, I had this person and this was the way I dealt with it. Or other people can see your blind spots too, and they can see something that you cannot see. So you want to be able to do that and have that feedback, because that gets you out of isolation. If you stay in isolation, you're really not going to get to where you want to go. If you get out of isolation, but you have to get with the right group. If you get with the wrong group, they're not going to help you. Okay, so if you go, to a convention with people who, one, don't care about you, two, don't know what they're talking about, or you're just your friend group, they just don't know what they're talking about. And the way you know they know what they talk about, the way you know that they know what they're talking about is, have they built what you want? If they've built what you want, listen to them if you trust them. If they haven't built what you want, then you have no reason to believe that they know what they're talking about. So the mastermind groups puts you with a group of people. They're like you, is separated by geography, no competitors allowed. Everyone signs a confidentiality agreement. It gets you out of isolation and into a room with people who know what they're talking about. They're on the same journey you're on. Some are further ahead than you, and some are not as far along as you, but everyone's on the same journey to build this criminal defense law firm of their dreams. And that's something that's very valuable to get in that kind of group. Okay, I hope this was helpful. See you next time. I'm Greg McCollum.
If you want to know more, go to prosperatelaw.com. We show criminal defense law firm owners how to reduce stress, have more free time, and make more money. Thanks for listening.